The best week of the year is finally here. It is Masters Week 2025, heading down to Augusta National, where we've got a potential duel at the top between Scotty Scheffler and Rory McIlroy, the two runaway betting favorites at FanDuel Sportsbook. For today, we're going to dive in to the Masters for 2025, let you know what we're seeing as far as betting outright value for this week and our favorite DFS picks on FanDuel.com. Welcome on into the Heat Check, a FanDuel Research Podcast. My name is JimSannes. I am a managing editor for FanDuel Research, joined here as I'm every week by Brandon Gdula. You can find him on X at Gdula13. He is on Blue Sky at Gdula. Check out his work at FanDuel Research, where he is a senior managing editor. Brandon, we have made it to Masters Week. How you doing today?
Good. Love the Masters. Everybody loves the Masters, but there's nothing like the Masters for me. The other majors just don't ever quite live up. I know a lot of it has to do with the fact that it's been months since we've had a major, but overall for me, nothing beats Augusta, and a lot of storylines coming into this year with Scotty, with Rory playing as well as they are versus the field. So there's a lot going on. There's just nothing like it, and I'm glad that we have. Now, I will say there's nothing like it, but a couple of these recently have not been particularly close.
Yeah.
But yet that hasn't really lessened my excitement for this year's, because we're going to learn something one way or the other.
Yeah, the baseline for Augusta is always high as far as excitement goes, but then that baseline can build when there are storylines. And I think for this year, we've got a lot of very fun storylines. There, of course, is Scotty Scheffler trying to win his third Masters in 4 tries. Rory McIlroy trying to win finally at Augusta. But he's been building to like a form that is pretty high. I know his baseline is high, but it does seem like Rory is trending the right direction heading into Augusta, which, is typically the case for him. But it's also fun to have that happening once again. Then you add in Bryson DeChambeau, who made so many interesting headlines last year. Jon Rahm is in good form once again, winner here back in 2023. So the baseline for Augusta is high, but I feel like when you add in those individual story juices, that makes it even more exciting than it typically would be.
Yeah, and it's just been a while since. I'll frame it this way. It's been a while since we've seen the PGA Tour players and the LIV players play together. Not going to say it's been a while since we've seen LIV golfers, whether people watch that or not. I didn't mean the ratings wise. I'm just saying, like, it's not like you haven't been able to see these names, but seeing them play together is what makes majors at this point fun. It kind of used to be majors, you'd get everyone together. Now it's kind of the only time they're all together. Yeah. So that we also have that aspect of it. But we'll cover some LIV guys who are in good form throughout the show. So again, tons of storylines for Augusta. I've got my rooting interests, but also we've got the process laid out as well.
The process will be laid out throughout today and actually tomorrow as well, because it is a 2-podcast week here for us across FanDuel Research today. We're going to go through, as I mentioned, betting outrights for Augusta. We're going to leave the other markets for tomorrow and talk about those on Covering the Spread. The reason for that is because more markets come up as the week goes along. We didn't want to wait until Tuesday to get all those markets up to you because things can move fast in the betting streets, especially for the Masters when there's so much public money out in the streets. So we're splitting things into 2 parts this week, probably because we like to talk about the Masters and wanted to have more time to do so, but also because from a betting perspective, I thought it made a lot of sense to have a show Monday and a show Tuesday. So today, going through both outrights and DFS picks. Tomorrow, we're back on Covering the Spread, the podcast feed, to break down outrights and other non-outrights that we like for this week. You can find all those shows in the exact same place. That's the FanDuel Golf Betting YouTube page. Shout out to you watching over there right now. If you're watching on the FanDuel Golf Betting YouTube page, make sure you give us a thumbs up there. If you like what you hear, subscribe to the feed, because we're here every week breaking down PGA Tour events from a betting and DFS perspective. Make sure you swing back once again tomorrow. Check out Covering the Spread as well. It is the final stretch of the NBA season. We've got the men's college basketball national championship tonight. We've got the Masters coming up. What better time to make sure you are signed up for FanDuel, and you can get in all the action right now at FanDuel Sportsbook, whether you're looking to get in again on that college basketball final game of the year, get in for Augusta or anything else, you can do so with FanDuel Sportsbook. New FanDuel customers get started with $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Make every moment more. FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Must be 21 plus and present in select states. For Kansas, an affiliation with Kansas Star Casino or 18 plus and present in DC. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/Chat Connecticut. Visit MD Gambling Health Oregon, Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. Let's start things off here, Brandon, by talking about Augusta National. Of course, people are well familiar with Augusta for sure, but still important to go through the basics of this week's event. It is a 95 golfer field, with Vijay Singh not able to make it for this year. The top 50 plus ties will make the cut after the first two rounds for this week. Augusta National, 7,555 yards and a par 72. So it is a long boy, and that will play a key role for this week. As always, Brandon, what stands out to you when you dig into the data from Augusta National?
Yeah, it's a long par 72 with wide fairways, but missing the fairways not super penalizing, which is always kind of the off the tee angle. It's long. It's helpful to be long off the tee as a result, but accuracy itself not overly vital. Greens are a little bit larger than your average on the PGA Tour, but we know they run super fast with these bent grass greens. Recent winning scores, I usually do the last 5 years of an event. Not doing that for this one because 5 years ago, this was held in November.
Why was that? Was something happen in 2020?
There was a pandemic going on.
Okay.
So Dustin Johnson won that one at 20 under par. It was the tournament record for an aggregate score. But since then, Hideki Matsuyama won at 10 under, Scotty Scheffler at 10 under, John Rahm at 12 under, and then Scheffler got his second last year at 11 under. And I kind of alluded to this, but this shouldn't really change the way that we approach things. But of these last 3 years, Scheffler won by 4, and then Ludwig cleared everyone by 3 beyond that. John Rahm won by 4, Scheffler won by 3, and that was after like an 11 putt on the 72nd. So it kind of have been some runaways. And how do those golfers get to those great scores, with some separation? The only one out of the 4 winning by just one shot was Hideki Matsuyama. So how are they getting there? Well, look, we know Augusta is a tough all-around test. There's always a narrative about the greens and how fast they are. But this one really comes down to having complete tee to green performance. The last 4 winners, Scheffler twice, Rahm, and Hideki, according to Data Golf, they've ranked first, second, and second going from last year and back in strokes gained tee to green for the tournament. Was their putting terrible? No, not necessarily. But was it also amazing? Also no. 22nd, 13th, and 23rd. So basically, you got to gain strokes off the tee with your approach play. You got to get up and down. And yes, you have to make some putts, but it's not going to be enough to be sinking putts from all over. It's not really how Augusta works. You have to have a complete tee to green game. It's been a while since I feel like I'm punting on putting a little bit. There's more to it. There are reasons to believe that you need to, make some putts. This is not just a let's target the worst putters in the field because tee to green matters most. Statistically, if your tee to green game is lagging, you're not going to be in contention. And for these purposes, we want winners. We want high performances because we can talk some DFS trends as well. But you got to play well tee to green here. So again, distance more important than accuracy. You get a little bit of added emphasis on longer approaches, 150 plus. You can go to the PGA Tour's website, their stats section for looking at proximity from 150 plus, but Data Golf also has an approach skill tool. It's pretty sick. You can check out strokes gained per shot from different locations. So for me, what am I looking for? Tee to green. So that's strokes gained approach number one, as always. Strokes gained off the tee with an emphasis on driving distance. If you're shorter than average, it's not the end of the world. It's more helpful to be long. I need strokes gained around the green. You got to be creative. That's why we see certain golfers play well here. Other certain golfers maybe struggle who are a little less creative, a little less, from the artistics perspective. It sounded like I said artistics, but that's not what I meant. Just to clarify, artistic perspective when it comes to golf. So I want those three tee to green stats. That's the way I'm playing it. What about you?
Well, I think that the other key stat that's not included in there is one that we kind of allude to in our second section of our show, which is history at Augusta, because it is I'm probably going to say well-known fact that people playing Augusta for the first time don't tend to play all that well. So although you and I don't tend to emphasize course history that much, people listen to this podcast often will know that, this week is pretty different. So before we actually look at guys who have done well here specifically, how much does course history actually matter for you when you're filling out a lineup or filling out a bet slip?
Yeah, it's a great question. I guess it's so ingrained in me at this point where I didn't even list it as a key stat. But we know
it's
that
not like
there
hasn't stat though. It's like it's more of like a, I don't know, like a. No, I don't want to say vibe because it's like it's legitimate. It's not a vibe, but like it's not a stat. It's like I don't know what to call it. Classify.
Yeah, and then the other thing is how far back can you go to trust course history? Last year we saw Ludwig Oberg finish runner up. If Scotty Scheffler weren't in the field, Ludwig would have made.
If his wife goes into labor earlier, Ludwig Oberg wins as a debutante.
And not only wins, but he was 7 under, and then there was a trio tied at 4 under. Like that's the gap. And coincidentally, I kind of said, you don't win this by leading in putting. Ludwig did lead in putting. He was 51st around the green. Maybe that's what ultimately cost him there. But whereas Scotty led around the green last year and was 22nd in putting. So the question becomes, are you talking about winning? We haven't seen that in a long time, a debut player winning. The debut player list of notables, I can kind of just rattle them off now.
Let's do it.
Davis Thompson, Taylor Pendrith, Aaron Rye, Maverick McNeely, and Thomas Dietrich. There are a bunch of other names, but those are sort of the most notable. It feels a little different where we don't have, is it Pendrith that you're grimacing at?
Grimacing, I don't know if I can't really classify it that way because it's kind of like I have an out to stop.
Yeah.
Like you're giving me a reason to for once not bet Taylor Pendrith. I might still bet him in a non-outright. I'm not gonna lie, but it gives me an excuse not to swing at 150 to 1. So I guess that's good.
That's the thing is when you're talking DFS, can these guys finish top 10? Yeah, maybe if everything goes well, but I think there is something to it. We cite Data Golf all the time, but they have a course history tool at the very top. There's like I guess it's a bar graph. What is it? Bar graph? If it's vertical, is that a line graph? I'm not smart enough.
I think it's a line graph.
Line graph.
Yeah.
Is bar just horizontal? Maybe, I don't know. Either way, you're gonna say if you go there, you will see a green line, not a bar, as we all know. Definitely know for sure. It asks the question: where is course history most predictive? Augusta is just like the outlier, and part of that is winners get to play it again. It's really hard to get in here. You don't just get to be in the Masters if you're, that sounds in the landscape of pro golf, but if you're just an okay golfer. So there's probably something a little bit self-referential within that, where the best golfers get to play here the most, and they separate. And the guys who got in there maybe from a good year, get a win, etc., kind of don't come back as often. But it is part of it. The question becomes, are you looking for an outright? I think it's an easy year to say, I don't know if any of these names are going to do enough to tempt me. Are you saying you have to avoid them at all costs? I would say no, because unless you're talking about an outright, and yes, when it comes to DFS, you want all 6-year golfers to have a chance to win. But if you get a Taylor Pendrith along with a Scotty Scheffler, for example, and Scheffler wins, Pendrith 12th, that's a fine combo. So that's where I am with course history. It matters, but it mostly matters for winners. But I think that narrative will change eventually when someone finally does it again.
Yeah.
But there is something to it. This place is tricky, and there's a lot to learn about it.
Well, you're talking about the artistry. It's hard to nail that artistry if you haven't been there a whole lot. And I think that's a tough part about it. And for those of you who listen regularly, you'll know what this means. I was not a Wyndham Clark last year because it was his debut, despite the fact that I bet Wyndham Clark most weeks. I'm not on Pendrith to win this week, despite the fact that I've bet Pendrith basically every week since January 1st. So if that shows you the respect I want to give to Augusta National, that should do it. If I can finally get off my guys because it's their first time. It is Wyndham's second time. It was only 2 rounds, and he putted like poop last year, but we got the 80-1 narrative in play. So maybe I can go now. It's his second trip to Augusta National. But you mentioned Scotty Scheffler. I don't know why you bring up Scotty Scheffler when talking Augusta National. That's a little weird, frankly. So let's talk about Augusta history. Now, I want to dig more in depth on Scotty specifically later in the current form section. We'll talk about Rory there. Rory not at the top of the list when it comes to Augusta form. But who stands out to you as far as form at Augusta we should take note of here?
So I am going to look at the last 5 years. Just I know it includes the November version, but it's fine because I want to include that, and I just chose to do it. So it is what it is. So over the last 5 years, in terms of total strokes gained, Scotty Scheffler leads the way. He's got 2 wins in this span, 5 top 20s, 3 straight top 10s, and again, including those 2 wins. His irons are on fire. The putter came back to life in Houston. That's noteworthy because for anybody who might hop back into golf for the Masters, hasn't really seen much, or maybe they watch the Players, Scotty's been a little chippy about his putter and not even hitting the cup from 6 feet and all that. To see him putt well in his most recent start changes things around. And I'm not alone in that because his number keeps shortening from an outright perspective. He's down to 4-1 on FanDuel Sportsbook this week, but he definitely leads by a pretty good margin in terms of overall form at Augusta over the last 5 years. Next up, 2 names that you might not have seen a lot of golf from lately, but Cameron Smith and Jon Rahm, both live players right now. Smith's been 6th, 34th, 3rd, 10th, and 2nd. However, he's got 4 straight events on live with negative strokes gained approach. Short game's great, as always, from Cam Smith, but he is tied for the best top 10 rate at Augusta since 2007, among those with at least 4 starts. That's with Jon Rahm, who was 45th after his win 2 years ago, 27th, 5th, and 7th for him. 5 top 10 finishes and 8 starts. His scoring average is under 71, 5th best among golfers with multiple starts since 2007. Golfing, well, since the start of 2025, he's been top 10 in all 5 live events. Did miss the cut at the Hero Dubai Desert Classic in January, which is a DP World Tour event. So just something to note there. Colin Morikawa, next up on the list, 3rd, 10th, 5th, 18th, and 44th. We don't think of him as a long hitter, but he's a great ball striker. His irons are phenomenal right now. Spoiler alert, I'm going to talk a lot about Colin Morikawa later on in the show. Then to Patrick Reed, 12th, 4th, 35th, 8th, and 10th. Does not even include his win from 2018. In 2025, Reed kind of playing more golf than most on the Live Tour, played some extra events, 4 straight worldwide top 25s. Hideki Matsuyama also deserves a shout. He got a win here 4 years ago, 38th, 16th, 14th, and 13th. Other than that, he's made 12 of 13 cuts at Augusta in his career, been under par in 24 of 50 career rounds, but he's trailing off a lot. The putter is especially has kind of gone cold for him. He beat, it's always strange because he ended up finishing third the year that Hideki won, but it was sort of those two neck and neck going down the stretch until Xander put one in the water. But he's made 6 of 7 cuts at Augusta in his career. He's got the third best top 10 rate since 2007 among golfers with at least 7 starts at Augusta. Again, trailing just Jon Rahm and Cam Smith. Kind of dealing with a rib injury, but maybe things are not as bad as they seem. Maybe Jim will talk more about.
I hope they're not as bad as they seem.
Are they as bad as they seem?
I hope not.
Okay. The putters, we'll talk about them.
Do you need your ribs to putt? I don't know. Just asking questions here.
Apparently based on what he's doing, yeah. Will Zalatoris, he's got 3 top 10s in his 3 career starts here. He's 5th in scoring average among those with at least 3 starts since 2007. Salary's $10,100 on FanDuel, 55-1 to win outright at FanDuel Sportsbook. He's gained on approach in 6 straight. Putter's still up and down, but Zalatoris and Augusta seem like a good fit. And rounding out the list here, going to rifle off Shane Lowry. Irons are great right now. Putter's kind of either neutral or hot, which is a good recipe. Tommy Fleetwood, the floor man, 3rd, 33rd, 14th the last 3 years. Irons are great. Putter went ice cold last week for him, but he's a great tee to green player. Then we get to one Rory McIlroy, who, despite not having won here, it's his only major he needs for a career Grand Slam, which I'm sure most of us know. But he was 22nd missed cut, 2nd missed cut, and 5th over the last 5 years. 7 top 10 finishes at Augusta in his career, 13 out of 16 in terms of making the cut. Boy, we're going to talk a lot about Rory later on. And then Corey Connors, whose tee to green game is great right now. Salary's below $10,000 at $9,800. 38th last year after missing the cut, but 6th, 8th, and 10th before that. You want tee to green game? Corey Connors has it. So, honestly, pretty bona fide list of names here, which is, again, what you'd expect. Who here jumps out? Who do you want to dig into a little bit more?
I want to talk a bit about the live guys because we've not seen them, as you alluded to, in quite some time, but betting markets are keen on them this week. Jon Rahm checking in at 14-1. You mentioned the course history, but also the form on the live tour has been good. No wins on live recently, but has been chalking up a lot of good finishes. Bryson DeChambeau 20-1. Typically at Augusta has been poor, but last year did break out. And I don't know if this is like anecdotal, but it kind of makes sense with all the weird stuff he does. Like maybe the artistry aspect for Bryson would eventually catch on. Maybe that's why he did well last year. I don't know. That could be like reverse engineering an explanation. He's 20-1. Joaquin Niemann 28-1. Obviously not on that list because he's not been amazing at Augusta, but also has not been terrible by any means. And then Brooks Koepka 30-1. Cam Smith pretty deep on this list. He's at 61. Mentioned Patrick Reed as well. He is down here at 90-1 this week. Wyndham's now 90, so I can't bet him. That's the rule. But with those guys, are there any live golfers you're like kind of zeroing in on for this week? Because I've been pretty okay with buying into them in general. I just don't think we're getting a discount this week, and I'm kind of bummed about that. So where do you settle in on? Let's talk about the guys you alluded to in the course history section, like Rahm, Cam Smith, Patrick Reed, and guys like that. Do you think there's still value in them
from a betting standpoint?
Yeah.
So Rahm's really
because it correlates to DFS. We'll tie it in DFS too, but
Okay. So Rahm at 14, it's a bit much, but he's frankly one of, if not. Like I know Scotty is top of this list, but he is nearly every bit as good at Augusta in his career as Scotty. And he's got the 45th from last year when he didn't putt well, but he had won before that, 27th before that, but he had 4 straight top 10s prior. And it's a little hard to contextualize, but Data golf can help us contextualize things in terms of adjusted strokes gained across all tours. Over the last 3 months, Rahm is 13th in the field in his 6 events. I mean, Rory's at 6 events over the last 3 months as well. Just for some context, it's a pretty big gap, about a shot per round between like Rory and Scotty. So I think when we're talking betting, you're kind of buying at the peak with Rahm.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit of a concern for me. Patrick Reed, I kind of get it from like a value standpoint, but not enough for an outright from what I'm seeing personally. It's a little too short game dependent, and right now the same thing for Cam Smith.
Yeah. Again,
Data Golf does have strokes gain data for Live. Live itself tends to offer just the more traditional stats, but Smith's irons aren't particularly great right now. He's doing a lot with the short game, and you can kind of make that work if you can get up and down, save par. I just like you kind of narrowed it down to the names that I just talked about. I like Rahm. I miss John Rahm on the PGA Tour.
Yeah.
But if anything, I think Bryson's the name to watch out for. He's got such a strange history at Augusta. Has not played well here for the most part till maybe he kind of finally figured things out. He's the name that might be the most interesting of all. And then again, I know you wanted me to hone in on the names we just talked about, but Brooks Koepka, can never fully count him out in any form. But it's kind of fine. I mean, he was second in Singapore, 18th at Miami. Like, he's gaining with approach. His distance isn't necessarily great. Would it surprise me if he was in contention? No. Probably eat these words, but do I fear Brooks like I used to in majors? Also not so much.
Yeah, agreed.
So there's enough to like about a lot of Live guys. There are a couple other names we'll talk about later on too, more from a DFS standpoint, but overall, Live guys in terms of betting, I'm not quite there on anybody just yet. Anyone piquing your interest?
Bryson's the one I dug into most.
Yeah.
When I was looking at it from a betting perspective. I remember last year, I think he got off to a really hot start and then just kind of like couldn't hold the heater over the weekend. And I don't know if that's like sticking in my brain too much with him, but that's why I couldn't quite bite at 20-1. And as far as DFS goes, Rahm's out at 11-8. I think that he's more interesting there for DFS than for betting at 11-8. So yeah, Rahm for DFS could be there. Bryson for betting at 20-1. Maybe I'll still talk myself into it. Probably not, given where the rest of my card has landed so far. But then we'll talk about some guys in the DFS section, like Sergio Garcia is undersalaried. So I think value plays might be more where it's at, more so than the studs. But did want to do at least a quick check-in on those guys quickly. Let's talk now about current form. This is where we can have the Rory versus Scotty discussion, because when you're talking about current form on these PGA Tour golfers, you really can't begin anywhere else. And of course, the betting odds are doing the exact same thing. Scotty Scheffler right now at FanDuel Sportsbook 4-1, Rory and McIlroy plus 650. So when you look at the recent data, Brandon, what do you see there?
So I like to go to Data Golf's True Strokes Gained Query over the last 3 months to look at current form. Typically, we're looking for some value names, but at the top of the board, we got to start, like you said, with Rory and Scotty. So over the last 3 months, there are 5 names, 5, who are gaining at least 2 shots per round on the world's professional average male golfer. Those names are Rory McIlroy, who's at a plus 2.86, Scotty Scheffler at a plus 2.55, Colin Morikawa at a plus 2.54, Russell Henley at a plus 2.26, and Justin Thomas at a plus 2.11. So we're not really including Morikawa here in this conversation because it's kind of viewed as like a 2-horse race between Rory and Scotty at the top. But right now, Rory is playing better golf over the last 3 months than Scotty is. And if you open it up to the last 50 rounds, Scotty does take the lead, 2.92, with Rory at a plus 2.59. So that's not lost on me. But Rory's got the 2 wins in 2025 at Pebble and the Players. He's been top 25 in all 6 starts worldwide. Again, I think for people who maybe don't like Rory would probably say he doesn't play Augusta particularly well, but he does enough to make the list of the best course form names in the list. 12 top 25s and 16 starts. And you got Scotty, who's got the 2 wins at Augusta, top 25 in all 6 starts in 2025. And again, the irons are great, and the putter came to life. If you can only pick one this week, who is it?
The issue for me is that I am kicking myself because we talked about this at TPC Sawgrass, where before the playoff on Sunday night, I was looking at like price shopping and seeing, what was the best number I can get out of Rory. And it was like, I think 8-1. And I was like, kind of hoping it would lengthen a bit. And now it's 650. And I'm like, idiot. Like I should have just taken it. If I was so interested at 8, almost hit it there, I probably should have done it and frankly didn't. So it's tainted by that. But then I look at Scheffler and see 4-1. I'm like, oh, well, actually, I think that's like also pretty short. So I'm not going to bet either this week, I don't think, to win. But I was looking at FanDuel Sportsbook. They don't have matchups posted yet. I'm guessing Rory's going to settle in the 120, 125 area in a matchup against Scotty. And I'm going to take that if he does wind up there, because of the form you alluded to being as good as it is, because you will be getting him at a discount. It's not a heads or tails kind of thing. And just the form overall is really good. Like if you look at, I reference this stat quite a bit on the show, but strokes gained to stabilization. So he's passed 24 rounds off the tee, 36 in approach, and then 50 for short game, which is based on the stabilization rates that you found in a piece for numberfire.com, RIP back in the day. And Rory's actually number 1 in that stat right now. And that's not gospel by any means. There are a lot of flaws, so you can't just take that at face value. But in that time, Rory's at 2.84 true strokes gained. Scotty's at 2.53. So it's like not negligible, the gap between those two guys. Straight up, Scotty's better. Scotty should be the favorite. Scotty should be favored over Rory in a matchup. But if I'm getting Rory at plus 120, plus 125, I'm pretty inclined to take that. So considering the market, give me Rory. What about for you?
Yeah, considering everything, I'd be siding with Rory. Yeah. There's so much pressure on both of these guys right now, though. And I feel like potentially Scotty's feeling the pressure, although maybe that's not what this is. But in watching Full Swing, he's admittedly kind of, we'll call it passionate. I won't use just to call it that. Maybe that's going to creep in. But Rory's got a lot of pressure. It does seem like Rory, though, is going a little scorched earth on everything. Yeah. And that's nice to see. I would love to see Rory win. If I had to bet one of these names, it's going to be Rory at plus 650. Yeah. From a DFS standpoint, I slightly prefer Scotty due to the floor and the fact that he does, he is a better tee to green player, which is wild to think about, just pretty easily saying someone's a better tee to green player than Rory. Scotty is, and we know that. So that's kind of where I am with it. There's going to be a lot more conversation when it comes to building DFS lineups with these two. But to simplify it, at these numbers, I would be starting my card elsewhere personally from a betting standpoint. But I understand it if you like it. Just because somebody's short, just because someone's shorter than 10-1 doesn't mean you can't get there. If you think that's who's going to win, that's different. For me, my model doesn't really see the value in it. So it's so easy to like both, but there are a lot of other names to be interested in as well.
Okay, so who are those other names? Which golfers entered the best form for Augusta?
So next up, we talked about Colin Morikawa, Russell Henley, Justin Thomas as the 3 names other than Rory and Scotty to be gaining at least 2 shots per round over the last 3 months. But the only name on that list whose salary is lower than $10,000 is Russell Henley. His salary on FanDuel this week is $9,900. Again, he's the 4th best golfer in this field over the last 3 months, according to Data Golf's adjusted strokes gained numbers. He beat Colin Morikawa at the Arnold Palmer, was T30 at the Players. Form's good overall. He's gained approach in all 7 starts in 2025. He's got 4 top 25s and 7 made cuts and 8 starts at Augusta. Other than that, like, who are the guys who are going to help us get to Scotty, to Rory, to both is pretty tricky. So just kind of want to throw that out there. So the best form among the value golfers in the field this week, Sepp Straka, salary's 9,400. He's at a 1.99, so he just missed this cutoff, but he's piping the irons, ranking 5th the last 3 months in true strokes gained approach. Won the American Express in January. He's been T30, T46, and T16 at Augusta. You mentioned Sergio Garcia, salary's 8,700. He's at a 1.96. Won Live Hong Kong and then was 4th on the Asian Tour in March after that. 3rd at Live Miami last week. Has missed 5 of 6 cuts at Augusta since winning the Masters in 2017. But again, you went tee to green. Sergio still has that in his bag. Patrick Cantlay, salary is 10,000, but I'm putting him in here because you get a golfer like Patrick Cantlay playing some pretty solid golf at a 1.78 true strokes gained per round at a mid-level salary, 35-1 on FanDuel Sportsbook, which he did not make my section for outrights, but he might be there by tomorrow whenever we talk more betting specifically. Hasn't putted well at any Augusta start since we have strokes gain data over the last 4 years, but 4 top 15s and 6 starts in 2025 with the irons just on point right now. He's a good tee to green golfer. JJ Spawn, 1.7, was runner-up at the Players, of course, after the playoff loss to Rory. Salary's 8,500. Just one of the better iron players in the world right now. Not a debutante, played here in 2022, was T23 at the Masters. Minwoo Lee, coming off of a win at the Houston Open. Salary's 9,900. He's at a 1.6 true strokes gained per round. He's got 2 top 25s and a missed cut at Augusta in his career. And then you get some interesting names. Some Phil Mickelson on the list.
It's current form, mind you.
Yeah,
current form.
It's
4 starts, but no, it's accurate. I was looking at it earlier today.
Okay, 4 starts, 1.58 true strokes gained per round. Solid across the board, positive across the board, I should clarify. In all 4 strokes gained stats. 6th in Miami last week. I can't believe it, but Phil deserves at least a little bit of attention. Take a closer look at Phil. Salary's 8,100 again. That can make things work. Laurie Cantor, 8,000. Won in Bahrain on the DP World Tour. 2nd at the South African Open prior to a missed cut at the Players, which is his most recent start. Is a debutante here, so probably not going to get there, but again, maybe another name to look into. And then 3 names we've talked about plenty over the recent months. Daniel Berger, salary's 9,300. He's at 1.56. He's got 6 straight top 30s in 2025. T10 at Augusta in 2016, which is his only top 25 and 5 starts. He's playing some good golf, though. Denny McCarthy, 1.56 true strokes gained per round. Salary's only 7,800. Putter is blazing. Playing some of his best, approach play in his career. Did fall off last week for what that's worth. And then Jason Day at a salary of 9,500. He's at a 1.54. He's got 7 straight made cuts in 2025. 4 career top 10s at Augusta. 7 at top 25s in 13 starts. For Jason Day, that rounds out the list of golfers, at least a 1.5. And for anybody who's like really perceptive when we do this, that's a lot of names above a 1.5.
It is.
We don't always get that. I don't want to cut things off and say, only everybody above like a 1.75 is worth talking about. It's a tough field. A lot of names in good form to make the Masters and deserve some attention. So who here stands out to you?
Well, I want to focus on the value plays because you
Yep.
alluded to the fact that it is tough to get to Scotty and Rory. Not together. I don't know if I can even try that. But
Yeah.
Scotty by himself, $93 left for 5 golfers. Rory by himself is at 94.40 left for 5 golfers. So if we want to get there, we're going to need some value to do so. There are some guys on that list, though, who can do it. Seb Straka, I'll talk about him in the player pick section. I don't feel the need to go super in depth on him here, but I did want to talk to you about the guys below 9,000. That's Sergio Garcia, 87. He is on my list personally. I don't want to speak for you there. Phil Mickelson is 81, not years old yet. $8,100 is his salary for this week. JJ Spawn, 85. Good form, like you mentioned. That one good finish at Augusta as well. Got Laurie Cantor. Personally, I'm not there. I don't know if it's just like using the debutante angle as like a cop out or what. And then Danny McCarthy, 78. I'm on most of those guys this week. Partly because I do value current form a lot, but also like I can talk myself into their form enough to be there. Of those guys in that section, who is kind of the standout for you? Are there anyone you're like skeptical of? What are you feeling about those guys from the 9,000 and lower range who are on that list?
They're all. So we're saying Sergio, Spawn, Phil,
yep,
Cantor, and Denny.
Yes.
I'm not playing Cantor.
Agreed.
The rest of them are all on my list.
Yeah, same. And I find that reassuring personally that I can commit to my studs and rotate through the value plays. Personally, that's how I want to play things in general from a DFS perspective. I want to commit to my studs, have conviction up top, and then filter on through and kind of hope those guys get through. Now, the cut line at Augusta, it's not the hardest thing to make the cut by any means, but because it's also not the hardest to make the cut, you do need top 25s. It's not enough to finish 40th, even for a value play. So I want that upside. And I think honestly, with all those guys, I can get that. So to me, it means I can fill out a lineup that's anchored by Scotty plus name your second golfer and kind of filter through the value plays and kind of rotate through without being overexposed to any individual golfer, knowing that I need to peg a guy who can get a top 25 or better. So I find that reassuring personally from an overall holistic perspective that there are so many names down there I can use this week.
Yeah. You mentioned the upside aspect of things. If you dig back to the last 5 Mega Eagle winning lineups at the Masters, there's going to be 30 names, 6 golfers, 5 years. The 28 of them were 16th or better. So you need upside. The question is, okay, you can look at Phil. I know he had a run here in 2023 with the T2. Can he finish top 25? Possibly. I mean, he's done it 2 of the last 3 years that he's played. He's got 7 straight made cuts at Augusta, even though the form has been up and down, in that span. Sergio, a little bit of an easier sell for a lot of different reasons. The putter for him has actually been kind of decent in recent events, aside from Singapore. He still shows the ability to, be a great iron player, but his form here has actually been a lot worse than Phil's. So what I want to do is stop short of saying there are a lot of surefire plays.
Yes.
And like you said, there are enough plays to rotate in, whereas we filter and fixate on our studs and then filter through the values. So we're going to have to I think we're going to be on the same page with how we build lineups this week. And what that means is being okay playing some values who have some problems, so that we can get access to the studs that we actually prefer.
Yep. I think that is an encouraging way to do things for this week. Weather for Augusta, pretty gnarly right now on Monday, but if you look forward to this week, it's actually going to be okay. The wind increases during the day Thursday, but never hits double digits, so no massive concerns there. Then it will rain likely overnight Thursday into Friday morning. Then a similar wind pattern that day. So I don't think there's a massive edge in having exposure to either either wave of golfers. I think it should be pretty straight up for this week, which is encouraging. And then the weekend looks good. So don't expect any big delays this week. Not seeing the same wind that we saw last year, which is part of why there were only two guys who were better than like 4 under or whatever it was. I think we'll see some lower scores this week because the weather is relatively tame overall. Let's take a look now at the betting odds over at FanDuel Sportsbook, again, focusing on just outrights for today. And we'll focus on non-outrights for tomorrow's show over on covering the spread. But Brandon, when you look at the outright values at FanDuel Sportsbook for this week, who are your favorite win bets for the 2025 Masters?
So this name I feel good about, so I don't have to hesitate here, but I just had to look at someone else before I really settled in here. But a name I feel great about is Colin Morikawa at 16-1. He's been flirting with wins for a while now, and he's got majors under his belt. So we know that he can get that part done. You could maybe say that he struggles to do it with a crowd. That's something we'll have to figure out. But if we need strokes gained tee to green, which is what I laid out as being really important, that's what Colin Morikawa can do. And again, each of the last 4 champions at Augusta were top 2 in strokes gained tee to green during their win. Right now, Colin Morikawa is 4th in tee to green over the last 50 rounds, according to Data Golf, with their field strength adjustments baked in. He's 1st over the last 3 months in that category as well. Finished T10 at the Players in his last start while losing strokes putting, but ranking 4th in approach. He's been top 20 here 4 straight years. He's made every cut that he's played at the Masters. He's also gained strokes putting in all 4 measured starts at Augusta, where we actually have shot length data. In fact, he's a top 20 putter among those in this field at Augusta, among those with multiple starts here. Again, since 2021, since we have shot length data. Sounds like a lot of qualifiers, but basically weeding out the outliers. He's been one of the better putters here since we've been able to track the strokes gained putting. So Colin Morikawa for me, I've got no issues with at 16-1. He is my favorite name among those, shorter than 30-1.
Yeah, with Morikawa, I did look into it because, as you mentioned, the form has been so good that you kind of always have to at least look at him. But then also, as you alluded to during the course history section, he has been good here despite the fact he is not super long. And I will say, to his credit, the distance is not bad. And it's been, it had been trending slightly up. It's kind of taken a step back recently. But like he's not gonna lose strokes off the tee. I think I can say that pretty definitively. So although I'm not a Morikawa myself, I think that he is a fully justifiable bet and a guy that like I at least gave some consideration to because I feel like with the way he's golfing, I don't want to say negligent. That's like that's hyperbolic, but like he deserves your attention at least.
Yeah. And to see him putt well on these speedy bent grass greens, I'll take anything I can get when it comes to Morikawa and believing that he'll make some putts.
Okay. So you are on Morikawa 16-1 to win this week. Which other outrights do you like at FanDuel Sportsbook?
So I said my FOMO with Brooks was lessened. He has been hitting his irons well in his three most recent starts on the Live Tour. I'm not quite there at 30-1. I'm very close to Patrick Cantlay at 35-1. But right now, in terms of it's Monday, where's the best value that I see on the board outside of Morikawa? It's Russell Henley at 50-1. He is 17th in strokes gained tee to green over the last 50 rounds with Data Golf's field strength adjustments baked in. He's 10th the last 3 months in that span. He has putted really well at Augusta in his measured events over the last 4 years. It's 3 measured events for him. The last time he's lost approach, so strokes gained approach, last time he's been negative, the Hero World Challenge in December. Okay. Before that, it was last year's Players. He is one of the best, most consistent ball strikers in the world. He showed at the API, Arnold Palmer Invitational, that he can get it done. Yeah, I know he had the chip in, but Russell Henley at 50-1 probably should not. I'll just say my model has him a little bit shorter than that. So if I'm talking value early on, I'm seeing it with Morikawa, and I'm seeing it with Russell Henley, which I know there's like a kind of correlation there based on the API specifically, but it's a great recipe for being in contention at Augusta. He's got 4 top 25s here the last 6 years. He was T4 in 2023 as well. So I think Henley can get it done. And at 50-1, he can be part of a card. He doesn't have to be the main feature.
So I've bet 2 golfers so far this week, and they're the 2 golfers I'll discuss in our betting section. The guy I looked longest into but didn't quite do it, but probably will, if I'm being fully honest, before Thursday. Well, there are 2. One is Wyndham, and the other one is Russell Henley, because of what you discussed, where he is a guy who can gain strokes off the tee without distance. And that to me is very impressive. And he's shown that his lack of distance is not a hindrance at this course. So I think he does enough. And like, frankly, like when we're talking tomorrow and covering the spread, I'm probably going to have a Henley bet in there somewhere, whether it's top 10, top 20, just because I think he's too good to pass up with where the market currently has him. So I fully endorse this one. I think that Henley 50-1 is a genuinely good bet this week.
Henley's last 4 majors were T38, T23, T7, and 5th.
Yeah.
Like he plays the US Open well.
He's
like
a genuinely good golfer.
He's just a good golfer. And like it's still asking a lot of anybody to go out and win the Masters. But 50-1 for Henley, his form through the simulation model, that's where I see value.
Yep.
I've got the more narratives with Brooks. I kind of see a little bit of value and have a narrative with Cantlay. But if I'm just letting the numbers do the talking right now, on Monday, it's Henley.
So you're talking about letting the numbers do the talking. My first outright bet this week is one that the numbers likely would not endorse because his form, from a numbers perspective, is not very good. That's Xander Schauffele, 20-1 to win this week. And I understand. I'm a data person. I want to put a lot of value in data. And so when I look at Xander's more recent form, if I look at the past 6 months of data golf, I look at my strokes gained to stabilization stuff, he ain't going to grade out very well. I'm not betting him at 20-1. But we also know how good his baseline is when healthy. And I think we saw some glimpses of that, as you alluded to, at the Valspar, where he gained 2.88 strokes on approach per round at that event, according to Data Golf. He did lose off the tee, which could be a side effect of that rib injury, but it was also a couple weeks ago, so he's potentially got a bit healthier. And if you go back to the Arnold Palmer, which was his first event back off that rib injury, he did gain 0.44 strokes per round off the tee there. So it's not as if the driver has been fully hideous since he came back. It was at the Players, and he said so. Like after the first round, said, I'm playing like trash, and then he did play like trashier over the weekend. But then again, with how good the irons were at the Valspar, got my attention. You dropped in a little note. Okay, note this for future times. And we're going to need a discount on Schauffele, who's lengthened from 18-1 earlier today to now 20-1. We just haven't seen him put everything together for a full event since that rib injury. And I think that he can do that soon. And I think that he will do that soon. So the buy low window on Morikawa is not going to be open that much longer. Morikawa is a guy we were on for both of his major wins last year. He was very kind to us. I kind of want to get back on board for this week because of the number he's at. 20-1 at FanDuel Sportsbook, to me, a very encouraging number. Now, you're the Xander guy here. Was it because the number was short enough that scared you off? Or is it because the data still wasn't quite there from the rib injury? What was the main drawback for you in preferring Morikawa at the shorter number this week?
So Xander was 18, he's now 20. So when it was so close, that was a differentiation. But for me, Xander makes a ton of sense because of what you laid out. In 4 events in 2025, he's gained an approach. In the 3 since returning from his injury, he's gained distance in all 3 as well. It's the short game that's eluding him. He's one of the best short game players. He's one of the best putters in the world. But I don't have to worry about an injury. I don't have to worry about form when I can get Colin Morikawa instead. I don't mind Xander at 20. I think looks like Bryson's moving around right now. Xander or Bryson at 20. I know what your answer is. It's a little bit of a tricky conversation for me. If Xander were healthy at 20-1, and I'm not saying he's not healthy. I'm just saying like if he was playing his full spring.
If this were 2024 Xander.
like this would be such a no-brainer.
Yeah, he'd be 10, probably 10-1.
Yeah, so I get the case for it. I think you're buying low. I think 20 is where I'd need to be to consider it, and that's where he is. So I think it's really interesting. But with Morikawa already, I think it'd be hard to get back to Xander.
Yeah.
Although I'm not opposed to that because those are different than, for example, betting, Scotty and Rory together. Very different scenarios.
Yeah. Okay. So I got Xander 20-1 for this week. The other guy I have bet is Corey Connors, and I keep staring at stupid Wyndham. And no, I should go Corey. Stop it, Jim. Okay. I think that the better bet is Corey Connors because we've seen him do it at Augusta. He's very good here. Form is very good for Connors too. Wyndham is so tempting, and I hate it. But I'm going to go Corey Connors 65-1 is my other outright for this week. He is the one I have actually bet. So I feel better saying that I like Corey Connors at this number 65-1 because I mentioned he's got a good history at Augusta. He's been top 10 here 3 separate times in 7 tries. Connors historically has been a guy who we could target at Augusta because he said, okay, we don't need to emphasize putting as much this week. That typically would be I think that bump up Connors, but also the putter has not been bad recently for Corey Connors. That's kind of a new thing for him. It's been okay there. The ball striking for Connors still elite. Not the longest guy by any means, but as we've seen at Augusta, doesn't matter too much for him. Maybe the outright at 65-1 is ambitious because it requires you to top Scheffler, McIlroy, Morikawa, Rahm, etc. But I do think he has the juice to get that done. So maybe Wyndham's better just because the volatility is there and volatility is good for an outright. But I think that Connors has the kind of juice that I want and does have the Augusta history. The form for Connors is really, really good. So I am going to settle on Connors 65-1. Probably going to find something for Wyndham on tomorrow's show to talk about there because 90 is very, very tempting. But I think Connors 65-1 is pretty fun. What are your thoughts on Connors this week?
I'm a lot more for DFS and potentially non-outrights, mostly due to the fact that the ceiling's fine for Connors. He is maybe getting a little lucky with the putter, 85th percentile from outside 15 feet this season and 36th percentile from within 15 feet for this season.
That makes sense.
Don't love to see that, but you do love to see made putts and a guy, there's also the element of that could give him confidence to make more short putts as well.
Yeah.
And that's such a hard thing to manage. And it's over 4 rounds. You can make some putts. You can save par at a course where you're comfortable. So no issues with Connors, just prefer him in other ways.
Yeah. I will say the reason I was considering Wyndham is that the irons are finally starting to tick back up again. And that's always been the issue with him is that the irons are inconsistent or not good at times, but they're starting to round back into form. So we'll probably talk about him tomorrow. But outrights we got right now, I got Connors 65-1. I got Xander at 20. Brandon has Colin Morikawa 16-1 and rocking with Russell Henley at 50-1. Did I miss it? No, he's right there. Russell Henley 50-1 to win for this week. As mentioned, if you want some more betting thoughts, we'll circle back tomorrow on covering the spread. We're going to break down both our outrights in case things have moved, but also the non-outrights we like for this week. That'll be up on the FanDuel Golf Betting YouTube page for tomorrow. For today, though, got to round out our thoughts by talking about some DFS for this week. And DFS, I think, is a delight for the Masters always, but especially for this week. So let's begin things at the top, Brandon. I think you said before, Scotty over Rory. Is that for both tournaments and for cash games or across the board? Or just for cash games?
I prefer Scotty over Rory in head-to-head and 50-50 type formats, so cash games. But from a tournament standpoint, I think there's enough to want to get to Rory instead. We made the same case. We've kind of been making that case for a while now, just because Scotty is so much easier to plug in at plus 400. Yes, the salary, there's a gap, but Rory's really, really good right now. And you'll get some popularity leverage off of Scotty. I think the bigger question is getting one of these two in a head-to-head format a must for you?
No.
I don't think so either. And that's kind of the first time in a long time that I've really felt like that.
Well, it's because their salaries are very high. Scotty Scheffler 13.5, Roy McIlroy 12.8, and there are like the opportunity cost is higher than it would be typically because you've got Rahm at 11.8, Xander at 11.6. I looked into Justin Thomas for betting this week. He's 11-1. Like that's pretty fun. Joaquin Niemann, who's been I'm not going to get there to 10.8 because there's competition, but like he's been awesome on Live. I like Shane Lowry 10.4. So like opportunity cost is higher this week than usual in Scotty and Rory. We have good alternatives. So would I prefer to use Scotty against you in our head to head? Yeah, very much so. And will my first build include Scotty Scheffler? Yes, it will. But am I open to pivoting if I feel like I can't quite make a lineup that I like? Yes. So to answer your question, no, they are not a must. Yes, they are a preference. And it sounds like you're kind of on the same page there.
Yeah. But if I'm not getting there, I really want to take a long look at Colin Morikawa. Laid out the case for him already. So I would love to have the majority of my lineup start with one of those three. Mm-hmm. But Morikawa to me definitely stands out. Beyond that, I'm probably not getting to Ludwig. I get it from a potential standpoint, but like I get it that he was runner up here last year and could have won, but he just doesn't stack up statistically like these other guys. And that's how I look at golf. I don't know if that's how everyone looks at golf. I get it potential wise, like avoiding Ludwig might be scary, but you're also then avoiding other people unless you're playing everyone, and that's a whole different conversation. But I'd rather go Jon Rahm over Ludwig. Any thoughts on this next tier for you?
I think I want to go Rahm too. I like Morikawa a lot at 12-1. I'd probably prefer Rahm by a hair, I think.
To Morikawa?
Yeah. Saying out loud feels different though.
It does.
And I think for DFS specifically, I prefer both over Xander. I like Xander more for betting than I do for DFS because the downside risk for him is very, very high. And I'm okay with downside in DFS in general, but I'm more okay with downside for an outright bet than I am with DFS. So honestly, I think that these three stand out above everyone below them. I think there's a teardrop after Xander. I think if I'm ranking them for DFS though, I am going to go Morikawa. Now, the more I think about it, the more I think I should go Morikawa. So I'm going to go Morikawa. Rahm's good. I'm going to go Morikawa 1, Rahm 2, Xander 3, and I'm not going to use Ludwig this week. Again, could be very stupid, but just kind of, I agree with your process there.
Can't play everyone.
I know. Yeah.
So in speak of not playing everyone, I do have a lot of interest in Bryson.
Sure.
I think you want to talk like tournaments, Bryson going to be out of sight, out of mind for a lot of people. He does enough to be able to play well here. He could start piling up majors if everything's clicking. Seems like maybe getting away from the PGA Tour has been good for him. Overall, he seems freed up. He's kind of like in his own tier in terms of salary. I prefer Bryson to JT.
Yeah.
If I'm being honest.
Yeah.
And then there's nowhere else really to compare him to unless you're going Xander. And I'd probably go Xander there, but I think Bryson and then Brooks Koepka are the two differentiation plays to me that stand out, which sounds kind of silly to say, but Brooks, and I know this will sound hypocritical, but it's Brooks. So his full season stats don't matter when it comes to majors. And I know I made the case for Ludwig and his season stats not mattering, or like not being good enough and that mattering to me, but he is kind of warming up with the irons. He's doing a lot with the around the green play on the Live Tour to stay sort of afloat. But honestly, if you get Brooks at I'll call this a mid-level salary, it's worth taking a look at. Like Brooks over Victor Hovland for sure.
Yeah.
Hovland's coming off of a win, which he seems like surprised that ever happened for him.
Yeah.
So I'd rather go with Brooks over Hovland. Brooks and like Fleetwood, I think, is an interesting conversation, or even Brooks and Lowry. So what are your thoughts on this tier?
I like Lowry. I know it's not a surprise based on the way I've kind of trended over the past couple of months, but Shane Lowry's salary 10-4, Brooks at 10-7, Tommy at 10-5. I just want to be on Lowry because irons, they are unreal right now. He's gained a stroke per round in 4 straight measured events according to Data Golf and 9 of the past 11. Finished third here in 2022. He's been top 25 in 4 of the past 5 tries at Augusta. So he combines elite iron play right now with good Augusta form. That's pretty fun for 10-4. And I wouldn't mind having Lowry as my second highest salary golfer because if I have Scotty or Rory, it's gonna be hard to get back up to Rahm. And I think that like the drop off after that, I don't mind dipping down to Lowry at 10-4. So let's say I put in Scheffler at 13-5 and I put in Lowry at 10-4, 90-25 left per golfer. That's okay because I can use a Denny McCarthy. I can use someone in the mid 8,000 range or high 7,000 range if I want to get back in the upper 9 range. So honestly, I like Lowry at 10-4. It is heavily influenced by the salary, heavily influenced by the fact I think there's a teardrop after him. Maybe not Cantlay. But like I do like Lowry quite a bit at 10-4. So I'm on him for sure.
Yeah, Lowry's on my list for sure. 6th in tee to green in the last 50 rounds. He's going to be one of my preferred plays. Cantlay like him a lot as well.
Yeah.
But then you have Will Zalatoris, who's 7 for 7 making cuts.
His history in majors, like it baffles me every time. Like, I don't know if he just has like
for majors though.
Does he just have like, I don't know, drop the anxiety plan, Will? What are you doing to make the heartbeat so steady in key situations, man?
He's a ball striker. He's putted well in 2 of his 3 measured events at Augusta. Has not particularly putted well, but from within 15 feet this PGA Tour season, for what that's worth. He's definitely more of a differentiation play. I prefer Lowry and Cantlay from a baseline standpoint to Zalatoris, but it's worth it. And if you're talking like volatility, some sort of hot and cold plays, we got a lot in that tier with Jordan Spieth, Tyrrell Hatton, Will Zalatoris, and Minwoo Lee. I think from a pure upside standpoint, Zalatoris would be my pick. But I will say Jordan Spieth, we know that the Augusta history is pretty much off the charts, or at least he started off super hot, second to start his career here. He's been really hot and cold. He's got irons, he's got the putter, just not always together. So he's not off the radar. But if I'm ranking this tier from a sort of baseline standpoint, it's probably going to be like Lowry, Cantlay. Do we include Fleetwood here?
Yeah, sure.
Fleetwood, Zalatoris, Spieth. This is a loaded range. If you can get 2 or 3 of these names here, like that's really impressive.
How firm are you in Lowry over Cantlay?
Not totally.
Yeah, I think that's my main hang up there is like I could go either way kind of, and it is a $400 gap. So
yeah,
let's say I have a lot of volatile guys in my lineup, then I'm going to go with Cantlay because I think that the floor for him is pretty high.
I've never seen smile like this
on his picture.
Yeah,
that's off-putting. I don't like that. Looks very British in this picture. It's weird. Anyway, I think I would go Cantlay over Lowry by a hair, but it's a good range, and that's another reason why I'm not fully committed to having either Rory or Scotty in a head-to-head lineup because this range is really good for sure. Yeah. Russell Henley at 99 is phenomenal. Another part of why, frankly, he should be in the Cantlay tier. Like I know from a betting perspective, he's not. He's 50. Cantlay's 35. But like from a DFS perspective, like Henley and Connors Henley more than Connors, I think, is in that tier too. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, Henley's gonna be basically borderline. I mean, he's a love for me.
Yeah,
but borderline one of my favorite plays. Don't need to get to him in 100% of lineups or anything like that because there is slight ceiling concerns just due to the distance. But he's played well here in the past. Connors makes a lot of sense. Then you get to someone like Cam Smith, who's just, again, really relying on the short game, but it plays Augusta super well.
Yeah.
It's really hard to figure him out right now. Any thoughts on this tier? beyond Henley and Connors for you?
I think there's a dip after them. That's kind of my thought. I'm not into
Yeah.
Cam Smith. I think that all the other guys are like fine. Wyndham 95. Honestly, but there's no one I'm like pounding the table for. Honestly, there's no one I'm pounding the table for in the 9,000 range beyond those guys. But there's no one I'm like semi-excited to use until Sepp Straka at 94. So I think to me, there is a fall off after Connors at 98 and that's where things start to dwindle off for me. So I think that's kind of like a top heavy tier. And then I'm okay kind of skipping the rest of it.
You said till Straka?
Yeah.
I'd shout out Robert McIntyre.
Big
at
shot,
96.
Bob. Let's go.
Yeah. So like the big shot Bob moniker always makes it seem like he's a big hitter, but he's not. He's kind of short off the tee. He's actually more accurate, but he's got 3 straight top 11s worldwide at Arnold Palmer and the Players, and then the Porsche Singapore Classic for him. But 2 starts at Augusta in his career, 12th and 23rd in 2021 and 2022 respectively. He's also a lefty, which is definitely helpful at Augusta. So McIntyre, not as appealing as Connors, Henley, and Straka, but he's probably 4th for me in this tier.
When he played here in 2021, he was 23 years old, 24. Dang, that's really impressive to finish 12th for a 24-year-old. That's kind of cool. And he hasn't played here the past couple of years, so it's easy to forget that he has played here a couple times.
Yeah.
I probably should have McIntyre on my list, so that's a good call out. I think I like that one.
Hey, thanks.
Let's go below Straka at 94. Who else in this 9,000 range is interesting to you? Because I'm struggling to see a whole lot that interests me down here. Maybe Berger at 93.
I guess Berger. Sam Burns. You mentioned Wyndham Clark's volatility with the irons. Mathematically speaking, Sam Burns is like the most volatile iron player among those qualified over the last 50 rounds, with Wyndham second most volatile for what it's worth.
Shocker.
Sung Jae's not doing enough for me.
Yeah.
Tom Kim, like I'd be fine with if I had to, but I'm not really trying to get there. Patrick Reed, he's going to play his Patrick Reed game. It could work out, but he also might have trouble hitting his ceiling. And then you get to like sort of the old stalwarts and Justin Rose, Adam Scott, and Dustin Johnson. None of them particularly doing enough with their current form to get me excited. So I would say Daniel Berger is the only other name on this list that I would try to go out of my way to get some of, I guess, if we put it that way.
Yeah. And I think that for me, the fall off after Straka continues past 9,000. You alluded to Dustin Johnson and guys like that. It goes beyond that. And honestly, the next guy who I actually want to use is Sergio Garcia at 87. So there are like pockets that I'm like probably trying to avoid this week. So I like Sergio Garcia 87. I like Keegan Bradley 86. JJ Spawn 85, Denny McCarthy 78. So there are a lot of value plays I like this week. Not a lot of guys in the low 9,000 range. So I think I kind of want to just like try to build my lineup so I'm in my preferred ranges and finding guys that I like a lot. And to me, it picks back up at Sergio. Anyone that I skipped over you want to allude to here?
If you really want some like tee to green, I can shout out Lucas Glover at 88. He's 14th in tee to green over the last 50 rounds, but I'd rather go Sergio at 87. I'd rather go Keegan Bradley at 86. He's 16th in tee to green.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get to JJ Spawn at 85. He's 20th in that span. Really flash at the Players. I think Sergio, Keegan, and Spawn are my preferred plays in the 8,000 range. And then I guess Phil at 81.
Like, it is funny that it's like in 2025 we're talking about Phil Mickelson, but also like we're talking about him for a reason, and it's based on like not just like, oh, he's good at Augusta. He was 6th at Miami, 19th at Singapore, 3rd at Hong Kong. Like, he's been good on the Live Tour. The problem is if you go beyond that like 3-month sample, the Brown stuff hits the fan real fast. So you kind of have to like really zero in on the most recent ones, or like really zero in on the Augusta upside. But like, that's not the worst profile to have at 81, given that we're that low of a salary. So I'm probably not going to get there, but like, it's probably a not a definitely no.
Yeah, I mean, he's gained at least one full shot per round.
Mm-hmm.
I know they're not 4 rounds, but in two of those 3 starts since March, like it's interesting enough to consider. Frankly, I'd rather go Denny McCarthy at 78 than Phil. The ball striking's trending up for Denny, but I can't look at it.
If you're not watching on YouTube or Spotify, we just zoomed in on Phil Mickelson's face, which is honestly the face I made when I realized I had to consider Phil Mickelson in 2025. I get it, man.
If he had like bangs, that was sort of my like 7th, 8th grade haircut as well.
Is that your 7th or 8th grade eyes as well?
I hope not. I hope I didn't look like that, but I probably did.
It's terrifying. Terrifying stuff. True nightmare fuel.
So Phil and Denny McCarthy, the lowest I want to go. I kind of alluded to the last 5 Mega Eagle winning lineups. Just 2 of those 30 were salaried below 8,000. One was Russell Henley at 78. The other CT Pond, whose minimum salary in 2020, that was the November year. Again, you need some upside. You need something more than a pulse. You need actual upside. So I want to really limit things. I'd rather not get below JJ Spawn. But again, if I needed to, those are the 2 names I'd look at.
Yeah, I think below Spawn, the other 2 guys I would consider beyond or McCarthy are a couple of debutantes, which is, you want to be careful with them. But Taylor Pendrith, 83, obviously I'm a parody myself. And then Michael Kim, 82, finally got a week off. This poor man has been ground to death, but then finally got a week off last week. We can get back on the train. He is on Twitter logging each day at Augusta. So if you want to follow along with Michael Kim's adventures at Augusta, you can do so on Twitter. So Pendrith and Kim I like, but I prefer McCarthy. I prefer Spawn, for the guys around them, but it's more so when I'm differentiating, which I will need to do. I'm okay with both those guys as being options. So who are your DFS loves this week when all is said and done?
Loves are going to be Morikawa, Lowry, Cantley, and Henley, and Sepp Straka.
Okay. I'm going to make Rory a tournament love. I think that people will probably be lower on him given the history at Augusta, given that, they've got the FOMO with Scotty, especially for like a single entry tournament. I'm going to like Rory quite a bit. Like you give me one single entry lineup, pretty sure Rory would be in it. So I'll go Rory as a love for tournaments. Really like Lowry. Depends on roster construction. 10-4 is kind of a weird salary. Henley at 99, easier to get in. Straka 94, you mentioned I like him too. Frankly, Sergio's kind of a love. I'll put Keegan above him. Keegan 86. But I think that all 3 is Sergio, Keegan, and JJ Spawn are guys I like quite a bit. So we'll go with all 3, frankly. JJ Spawn 85, Keegan Bradley 86, Sergio Garcia 87, Sepp Straka 94, Russell Henley 99, Lowry a strong like, and then Rory for tournaments. My list for this week. So a lot of names on the list, which I'm pretty cool with.
Yeah.
Let's finish up with our win picks for this week. We ran through outrights earlier on. We do a contest where we pick a win or 2 winners every week based on the betting odds of FanDuel Sportsbook. The person with the most units at the end of the year wins a hat or a bobblehead. Brandon, wait, I won. I'm so used to having you pick first. I get to go first. Ooh. I don't care who my second person is, frankly. So I'm going to go pick first and fourth, and I'm going to go Xander Schauffele 20-1 as my first win pick for this week.
Okay. I'll go Colin Morikawa at 16.
Okay.
Really struggling here because Henley sounds great in theory. Cantlay sounds great as well at 35.
Henley is the reason you're down right now, by the way.
He is.
Put some respect on his name.
Yes, and not only that, but I had Colin Morikawa as well. So that was like the
So,
mega reversal.
You bet Henley though, at least so you got some money out of it.
Which it was brutal. I can't in a format like this. I can't get around two names of Brooks and Bryson.
Okay, yeah,
because I need the win.
Yeah,
and I think there's value on Henley, but the probability for my model shows it a lot higher for someone like Bryson and Brooks. I'm actually going to go Bryson.
Okay. So you have Colin Morikawa 16 and Bryson DeChambeau 20. I got Xander Schauffele at 20. And I've got Wyndham Clark at 90. We're doing it.
Hey, if it hits, then
yeah. Well, he's part of the reason I won 2 years ago because of what happened at the U.S. Open. I don't think I picked him at the at Pebble Beach last year, but I did bet him there. He was 80 for both. He's 90 here. Again, we're not going with the Wyndham 80 method, but whatever. I can make some flubs there. But I'll go Wyndham 90 and Xander Schauffele 20 as my win picks for this week. Any final thoughts? Specifically for DFS, since we'll talk more betting tomorrow, but any final DFS thoughts for this week for the Masters?
Yeah, you need some upside. You got to get golfers top 25, really top 20. If history is any indication for tournaments, it can be a little bit different for your cash game formats. So yes, it's fun to get access to all the studs and hope that your golfer in the 7K range makes the cut, but you need a little bit more than that in most instances. And with that said, I can guarantee people probably like Ludwig way more than I do this week. That's fine. The thing with majors is you probably basically like throw a dart at the top 20 names. Odds are they're good plays in process. We're splitting hairs. We went through our process there, explained why we like certain golfers more than the others, but when it comes down to it, am I going to be surprised if, I don't know, Justin Thomas is in the mix? No. And if nobody's talking about Justin Thomas, that stuff matters from a game theory standpoint.
Yeah, there are a lot of plays you can justify for this week for sure. If you like a golfer and you have a reason for liking them, there are so many justifiable plays this week. I think it can make a lot of sense. That is all that we have here for today in the Heat Check. But as mentioned, we'll be back once again tomorrow talking a full betting breakdown of this week. We're going to talk to the outrights that we like. If things have moved, maybe things will change there. We've added stuff to our card. Maybe I'll feel higher in Wyndham then. We'll talk about that tomorrow, but also talking through some non-outrights, finishing positions. Hopefully I get that Rory-Scotty matchup that I alluded to. Maybe they'll post that between now and then. We'll break down on that all tomorrow. If you want to watch that on the FanDuel Golf Betting YouTube page, subscribe there. Turn on notifications to get notified as that goes up, and also leave us a thumbs up here. We appreciate you doing so as always. And the Covering the Spread show will be on the Covering the Spread podcast feed. This show, our weekly golf betting show and DFS show, is on the FanDuel Research Podcast feed. Brandon, people have questions for you on social media. Where can they find you there?
I'm on X at Gdula13, GDULA13, and on Blue Sky at Gdula.
I am on both X and Blue Sky at JimSannes. You can find FanDuel Research on X at FanDuel Research. Big thank you to our YouTube producer, Justin Lane, for his work in the video side of things. Thank you, Justin, as always. And thank you to everyone for tuning in. Good luck to you with your bets and your DFS lineups to the Masters. We'll talk to you once again tomorrow to break down our betting cards in full. This has been the Heat Check, a FanDuel Research podcast.